Hello, everyone. Welcome to my presentation on growing the technical community and sharing of stories about the Chicago Java Users Group. I'm very honored to be here at DevFest, Wisconsin 2020. When I first read about the call for proposals, I was all excited. First, because I'm in Chicago, so not far from Madison. But then, because of the COVID, I think I was thinking, it really doesn't matter because the theme this year is on inclusivity and team building and really bringing the community together. So I'm all excited about this, and I'm just very thankful that I'm having this opportunity to be sharing with you some of the stories. So I'm president of Chicago Java Users Group since the beginning of 2020, and how timely or untimely the pandemic is happening. So I'm like having some extra challenges. So by day, I'm a developer advocate at IBM, a Java developer advocate. So therefore, I'm really involved with the Java community. First, let me give you some background of the Chicago JUG. Some of you, or a lot of you, have heard of that's how Java Users Group is being called. Java, so Java, JU, and then Users Group, JUG. So we are really like juggers. So we are kind of worldwide, everywhere. So for Chicago JUG is interestingly, there are a couple of generations, as I kind of call it. First of all, Java was born 25 years ago in 1995 in June. In fact, we just celebrated, it's actually, I kind of think somewhere in the springtime, just to make sure I got the dates correct. And so, so 25 years ago, Java was born. And then slowly too, then it was primarily, back then was JavaSoft, part of the Sun Microsystems. So they started having the users group, mostly were formed by sales team folks. Now at the time too, I started working with Java. That was also back in 1999 for me, but it's so already a couple years old. But I wasn't really involved with the JUG yet. So kind of like long story short, right? So for Chicago Java Users Group, it was formed by the sales team in Chicago. And I think then not too long after that, from what I heard from the people who were running it, they was just saying that, well, then eventually people kind of fell out of it. It didn't kind of really go too far. Then the second generation of folks stepped in, and I believe there were also like community organizers. There are technical people that are already doing programming, whether they were doing Java or just curious about it. They pick up from where it left off and revived the second generation of Chicago Java Users Group somewhere in 2000, I believe 2005 or something. And then kind of fast forward a little bit, then eventually too, this group of people didn't carry it on. And then by like about 2012, 2013, it was kind of falling apart again. Then thankfully we have Freddie Gimme. He's kind of like, we call him kind of like the founder of the current generation of Chicago Java Users Group. He's a kind of a true community spirited person working for Expedia. But anyway, he moved to Seattle and working for Expedia out there. So he's running also CJUG, but it's Seattle JUG. So some background information for you. But he really helped to kind of bring in that spirit of sharing and caring to the community. So I'm really kind of feeling very fortunate. And in my case, I wasn't involved with the Chicago Java Users Group, but I finally did because of certain timing too of things that are happening in my life. Then I became having more time. So I started helping in 2016 or so. Then at the time, Freddie was there, and also with Bob Pollin too, who is currently, Bob is still the board member, but he's busy with his family. So they needed somebody to kind of take over and help out. So I felt like I was very excited too about community work. So that's when I started helping. So this is like what I'm calling like this third generation of Chicago JUG. So very much too, as you can see too, there are like two logos that we're using. The one at the top actually was the original one. And this one, the blue one, was kind of recently designed by our previous president's, her husband is a graphics designer. So he designed it for us. So I thought I'd share with you the logo. So as such, we have a very kind of a bit more of a heavier technical focus too in our events. As such too, Java, if you're familiar with it, you know that the ecosystem is quite big, and also having accumulated like 25 years of kind of many things, and their open source community is extremely strong, and there are lots of variations coming out of it. Although it isn't intended for every scenario. For example, like right now, like artificial intelligence or as we know, machine learning, those are tend to be not like Java JVM language. But it doesn't really matter. We still have like a big demand for this language. And so, yeah, so as such too, we are very much a nonprofit organization. We are registered 501c6 organization. So we do file our tax, and we also have our executive board. Kind of, we have our also like bylaws, kind of somewhat like guiding everybody to interact with one another, so that we don't kind of get into fights and things like that, right? The kind of interpersonal problems. So, and then we are also made up of a pretty big member community. So I like to share with you some statistics. So where are they from? So interestingly, with the COVID, we actually have members joining from all over the world now, because meetups are all accessible by everybody from all over the world. And that's kind of interestingly speaking, with all the things that's going on around us today, somehow there's still some positive side effect, is the fact that with the meetups, we're bringing people together from all over the world. And they are all joining a lot of times too. When I look, at why they join, is primarily because they really want to learn more about Java. A lot of them too also come because they are starting, they wanting to have a community. So I'm really beginning to understand that this is really more about the community, not I mean, technical focus is there too, but really community is so important in actually, in fact, everything. And even like a job too, right? At the job situation, you also have a community. Maybe you're smaller like work teams, and you usually too, a person gets upset is not because of the work or something else. It's all because of the people. So people make up the community, and it is so important. So then let me move a bit on to the next top kind of a bullet point, right? So talking about some of the challenges, right? The computer industry is, can be compared to shifting sand. I'm like deliberately using a beach with all the sand. It keeps changing. To be honest with you, I'm sure you all are feeling it too, is that it can get to be so frustrating. One day you learn this, the next day it becomes obsolete. What other industries or, things that we do in this world will be like this? It's kind of just quite an extreme thing. On the other hand, the nice thing about it is that, of course, it brings about a lot of innovations, excitement, and also essentially to, what we're trying to do, really solving problems, like providing solution to it. So using a computer way to doing things. But again, kind of going back to the challenges, all of the changes that are happening. So the only constant is really like change. And then now with the untimely COVID-19, I remember when I first became president, that was back in like February, was kind of getting ready, was going to contact all of the sponsors and getting all the venue. They're all interested in sponsoring us. Then boom, like with the pandemic, and then we have all the shutdown. And then now what do we do? So literally too, when Chicago got shut down, we got the order to kind of close all the bars, restaurants, everything in March, late March. I remember we were going to run some meetups, and we ended up canceling all of them because we were like, okay, now what do we do? Now, in my case, I could use my company's, the conferencing to do meetups too. But I was kind of really curious, so then started to kind of experiment with what other options could there be. So, so thankfully too, I think then we also have a big community that's kind of behind us to help us. So let me also give you some stats first. So growing the community. So in 2017, CJUG's membership was around like 2,500. So the time when I joined, 2,500. And today in October 2020, we are at 3,000. I just checked 3,046. I'm kind of really pleased, in particular to the fact that we have this pandemic going on. we constantly are have seeing like old members leave. There will always be people leaving. Sometimes they move out of town, out of Chicago. You can't blame them. They don't want to get connected anymore, unfortunately. Or sometimes too, people switch, right? Their interest level, their interests shift to doing something else, not Java anymore. Maybe they're doing like Python or whatever it is, and then, of course, too, at the same time, we constantly are having also new members. And being in Chicago, too, is kind of, we feel fortunate. I believe in medicine as well. You have your university population. So for us, we have a lot of universities around, the children, too. I guess less of the children, but like, it's more like adult, students that are joining us, too. So we're very, very, very fortunate. So let's take a look. Any secret sauce, on what how we are able to keep the numbers growing despite the decrease. So I don't look at it, it's not my work, but I certainly, one thing is that I do bring with me is a really like a big enthusiasm, and I love this work, and I think that's how too, because of getting involved with the Chicago Java users group, and that's how I've become a developer advocate, something which I not totally unplanned. I wasn't thinking of it. I've been a developer for a number of years now, like over 25, close to 30. But so at the time 2017, when I first started helping, I realized that I really like it. Part of it is that the community in which you interact with people, I guess, what it comes down to is that we are all social beings. How can we deny, our need? It's very kind of natural thing that we want to feel connected with other people. That's a very natural thing. So now there's no really secret, but the thing is that I feel for Java, the community, because it's been 25 years, so we do get some support from the industry too, primarily to the big companies like Oracle, which actually they bought JavaSoft, and when Sun Microsystem kind of collapsed or shut down. So Oracle's been there too behind. So I do have to say that it's helpful too, because they don't give us money to run the jugs, but they are there and also tie together the whole worldwide jug community. That's been a big help too. And then, for example, there are also companies I work for, IBM, right? That also we are kind of big on supporting open source, supporting Java as well. So the open source community too is also very big, as you can see. For example, Apache, right? Eclipse Foundation. These are also like very heavily Java kind of being used in the software too. And the community is really extensive, so yeah, it's got we've got universities, we've got industry and research everywhere. And then of course too, in the industry too, business, there are still plenty of business systems in production that's Java. I do have to say Java isn't for everything, but for one thing we're sure is that it's really robust as a backend engine. A lot of the big companies in this world currently, for example, like American Airlines, who is also like a big IBM customer, they are having a lot of the systems actually still heavily using Java. So, but then one thing though, there's no silver bullet. To run a tech community, it does require time. And JUG leaders like myself, we step up to really help the community. So how does CJUG engage the community? So we focus, like the way I'm looking at it is that, well, I know this is all volunteer work, but definitely, like I said, we need to bring in that spark of energy, of passion into all of this mix. But how do we do it, right? So well, for me, I really focus on providing value to our members. So I kind of sat down to think about it. I really think, members, what they need primarily is professional growth. There's also, of course, jobs too, a very practical reasoning too. We need jobs and they get into computers. They would like to grow professionally because I mean, as we're all aware, when we work for a company, right, very often too, and unfortunately too, is that companies, they don't really, so to speak, like help you, right? You as a developer, as a technical person, me, I need to be constantly be learning myself. I need to take a lot of initiative. But sometimes too, it may not be as easy because then things keep changing, as I mentioned, the shifting sand, where do we go to get more information? We rely on a community to be, kind of bouncing ideas off, to hear about what's going on, or correcting, things that are kind of rumors, for example. So those kind of like needs, it's actually happen in everybody's too. And of course, too, folks also like to get some free training opportunities. I mean, think of too, like running a Java users group, or if you're running Python. I'm aware of the Python community is wow, humongous, even bigger than the Java community. So I think because of the fact that we, are able to provide this kind of opportunity. Sometimes we run workshops too. We like to run more workshops, but we definitely need more volunteers to doing those. But think of it this way: there's really no money that anybody needs to pay. Well, the only cost by economic terms is opportunity cost. You could be doing something else rather than going to a workshop. But think of the fact that you really gain knowledge, and not only that, you are sharing information with one another. And that's also another like best way to learn too, is to kind of exchange of ideas and all that. So, and especially if they're in-person meetup too, right? They're also like food and drink. And very often we're very fortunate to be sponsored by different companies, and they in general too will be providing us beverages and especially pizzas in Chicago. So we're definitely getting a lot of community support and a sense of kind of connection that we want to build up. And I'll be sharing with you too. For example, we actually have a Discord server now. That's kind of most recent, but we also have Slack channels. So we are providing like communication channels where people can continue the conversation. But like I said recently, with Discord becoming more popular and being like less formal, I guess, than Slack. For us too, we don't have a Chicago Java users group Slack, but we actually are relying on a community-wide Chicago Tech Slack. If you like to join too, let me know. I can invite you there. The only thing is sometimes with Slack is that, well, especially with free tier, you do not get like archiving of your messages. So, and also too, right now the Chicago Tech Slack has got like over 10,000 people. So for us, we're at 3,000 folks. Not everybody has signed up, but still, it gets a bit kind of difficult to be communicating. So that's when I decided let's experiment with Discord, and we do now have a small community where we talk about things, and people are asking questions. We have students from Chicago, from one of the universities, being quite active with us. So those are all kind of good things. And again, too, I point out about job board. Now, while we do not act as the job agency, but we are there to kind of facilitate, and we also tell recruiters not to become overbearing. I mean, unfortunately, too, sometimes they may be coming to our meetups, especially when when there was normal time in-person meetups, they would be coming, and then they would be trying to recruit people. I think that's all fine. We all need jobs, especially now with the pandemic. So with the recent environment being like the way it is, I actually have also revived our LinkedIn group, in which I invite, because it's only by subscriber and approval. So we would give approval to whoever would like to join us as members from our community, or even now outside, we would welcome them. And then if there are recruiters who want to join, we would screen them before we admit them as well. Now, one thing though is that we need to be very careful is that, again, we don't want to have all of these like community involvement to start backfiring in terms of having like vendors kind of stepping in and become overbearing. So those are the kind of like fine line we have to be careful to walk on, so that, for example, if a recruiting firm would like to sponsor us, we will let them to to advertise and do some of their advertisement of their job postings. but we would really ask them to not be like, doing it, overdoing it, because too is that it can drive people away, and especially with developers too. Trust me, right? I'm sure you are all developers too. You do not like it if, let's say, a company comes in and is trying to very heavily tell you to buy their stuff, use their stuff, and that's what we don't want to do. And but the thing is, though, if a vendor, on the other hand, if they are very much supportive of the open source, movement of the community, then we would greatly encourage them to participate too. And what does CJUG do for the community? So I mentioned about meetup events, and those are pretty common events that a lot of meetup groups, on the relying on the meetup.com do. And it's really great too. I think having a meetup.com site such as that. And so when we travel to other cities, we can also figure out and find out what the other tech communities would be. So for us, we run meetup events at least once a month. And these days too, actually with the pandemic, it isn't as bad because we can run this all online and there's no need to travel. I live out in the suburbs, so if I go into the city, it's a bit kind of a lot of work. So now with being at home, I'm able to actually run 2 times per month easier. And then one thing I also started doing as well is to have collaborations with other technical meetup groups. For example, we recently ran a meetup with the Scala meetup group, the CASE, Chicago area Scala enthusiast group in Chicago. We had a Scala talk with deep learning. And then we also have with the microservices guys too, we also did a talk, and now we're talking about collaborating with the Kotlin folks too. So, and it's even, I'm thinking too, it doesn't matter. Well, actually, we did do one with the Chicago machine learning group as well. And we also did talk a bit too about Java machine learning libraries as well, even though they are not as prolific as Python. So the nice thing too, amazingly, right, sometimes it's kind of to our surprise with this pandemic situation, it actually encourages not just, technical groups in the immediate area, Chicago area, but also with the international community. I have had actually folks join us from Europe as well, from India too, Mexico, Latin America. So that's kind of a wonderful thing too, and we welcome everybody to join us. Different languages or different way of talking, and I myself always take the time to get to know the folks too. Now at our meetup too, what I've also done is that I'm also doing what I call virtual drinks. So telling people after the talk, after the presentation, and sometimes the speakers join us as well, is to go to your, refrigerator, go to your bar at home, get some drinks, get some beer from your fridge. And then, if you don't want alcoholic, doesn't matter, just come and join us, grab your favorite drink, and then we chat. We chat for a while before I basically close the online session. And that actually has been working out very well too. And people actually enjoy it a lot. And I've received feedback that they really enjoy that kind of like an extra bit of time to talk with one another. And as far as topics go too, mostly we're talking about also emerging topics that are relevant to what people do every day. And we're expanding the scope. As I mentioned, we get into artificial intelligence and machine learning and other topic areas too. Not just, even within the Java ecosystem is a lot too. We have also the specs and the Java community process and everything. But we try to be as inclusive as possible. Now, other events are office hours, mini hackathon, or maker track, which we used to do too, but we do need volunteers to help. And that's always been a bit of a challenge, which I'm also trying to work on. If you can kind of get more of the younger folks to join, that would be great. And there are also kids event that we have done with Minecraft. And community partnerships too. We partner with some of the conferences. For example, there was a jcon.dev in Chicago by the Atlanta Java Users Group folks. They came and we collaborate with them. That was in Chicago like 2 weeks ago, and that was a big success to participate. In a conference like that, we were being MC too. I was also MCing, and communication channels, as I mentioned, Slack, Discord, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. We are on all of them. And we also try to connect with job seekers with the LinkedIn group. Okay, so with that, I'd like to give you some more information. If you'd like to join us too, you are always welcome. And again, no silver bullet. I think the point is that we definitely have to get involved. We cannot be lazy. Like for me, I really make it pretty disciplined too. Like every month at least, one meetup. And I get on the chat channel, chat with folks. They need help. They're learning something, or even if I don't have answers for everything, but I would go and connect with somebody else, and then connect them to get some more information. And if and I also remember too, if somebody says I want to learn something about DevOps, and we also have like DevOps topic, as they relate to Java with Kubernetes, things like that. So yeah, so we're not just like the Java kind of nerd folks, we're really community. So with that, I like to share with you the resources and links, and please join us from anywhere you are. I know that a lot of you maybe are based in Wisconsin, but there are also folks from all over the world, which I'm like always so excited. So currently we are upgrading our CJUG.org website, but you're welcome to go there and take a look at. It's still a bit kind of older, kind of framework. We use a site generator called JBake. But as such too, we are going to use newer templates to make the site a lot better. So we have a volunteer, Josh, who stepped up and help us with that. And then there's also our meetup.com. This is our meetup.com webpage. And follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at CJUG. And chime in on our Discord server. For your convenience, you can just scan this and join CJUG on Discord. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's also Facebook too, just search for us. And some bonus info, you don't want to miss it, is that when normal life resumes, join our in-person meetup in Chicago, and we will take you out for a deep dish pizza. We guarantee, we promise, that's what we do. And so I think that's really, really nice. In person, we can do that. But for now, well, we just live with virtual drinks, but that's actually better than none. So with that, it comes to a close, and I hope the information has been helpful for you, and that you find it useful. And I hope it is easy to see and hear. As basically, you can contact me. Again, my name is Mary Grygleski. That's my Twitter handle. And my LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I believe too, these links are also available on my speakers page too. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always interested to meet new people. And so with that, I want to thank you for being patient with me and have sat through. And please send me any questions. And enjoy the rest of the conference and have a great day.